Okay. So hello and welcome everybody to this conversation, which is part of the WAFTA Talks online series for 2020. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Lea Taylor. Lea is an Aboriginal artist with family connections with the Wadandi, Menang and Koreng language groups through the Hill and Pickett families. So Lea is a self-taught artist and had the freedom to express herself outside a formal art education. So her work comes from within, through connections to country and a strong belief that she is guided by her ancestors. So Lea has shared her knowledge through workshops in schools, galleries, government and private organisations, reaching many hundreds of women and young people during the last 4 years of her business. Now I'll be posting Lea's business contact details at the end of this video so that if you want to get in touch with her, you can. And at this point in our conversation, and before we get into the conversation proper, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and the elders past, present and emerging. So welcome, Lea. It's lovely to have you here. And
thank you, Iris.
So just to start off, your business is called Creative Culture and you have the byline Cultural Learning through Art and Yarning. And you wanted to call this conversation Wongi Irup, which means yarning up. So can you explain what yarning is about, please?
Okay, yarning is a really, really important part of culture and everyday life, really. We talk, we have conversations all the time, so we call it yarning. So a conversation is yarning. It's our, we share culture, we have in-depth conversations. So yarning up, Wongi Irup is just having a good old conversation, yarning.
Great. So that's kind of what we're going to do today, which is
absolutely
lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lea, I love to know what it is that makes people tick when they are artists. You know, what is it that fires you up? What makes you do art rather than anything else?
The cultural connection that I get from art is why I do it. It enables me to look inside myself, look at my culture. And from that, I build on my art. So as I say, I'm a very strong believer that my ancestors guide me with what I make. There's baskets that I've made that I've later down the track that I've found an image of a basket that's almost identical to it that was made 200 years ago.
Wow.
It's happened to me a couple of times now and it just kind of gives me shivers. But there's very much the cultural connection that I get from the weaving, the painting, although painting has gone by the wayside in favour of weaving, I just get so much more out of that. And it's a daily activity for me. It's something I do every day now. So it's massively important to me to be part of my everyday practice. It's just like eating for me.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, it's sustaining, isn't it? It's a life thing that you have to have. Yeah.
Absolutely, yep, most definitely. It's way too important it enables you to connect and look inside yourself, because you do. When you're creating art, you're looking inside yourself and whatever you're feeling on that particular day is reflected in your art.
Yes, yeah. Beautiful. So it's that self-expression, but you're expressing centuries of knowledge as well, aren't you?
Definitely. It's healing. It's a healing practice as well. My practice started, well, I learned to weave as a child and as you grow up, you find other more important things that really aren't that important, but you see in your life that they are more important. Yeah. And it took till 2011 when I had a massive nervous breakdown and I ended up being locked up in a mental institution for it. Oh, wow. And I hit rock bottom. And you hit rock bottom, you can't go any further, you need to start coming up. And I knew that I had to find some healing, and it took me until 2015 to find that. And that was reconnecting with culture.
Yeah, wow.
To reconnect, and I sat down and I said, I made this funny little basket And that was it for me. It was like something was telling me that this is what you need to be doing. So from my funny little purple basket made of plastic rope and acrylic wool, became now my career. It's what I do for a living. And, you know, that's 5 years finding a healing, and it is healing. And a lot of women say that when they come and work with me, is that it actually, they can feel it inside, this healing coming from sitting there in silence, just doing something repetitive. It's that repetitive motion. You clear your mind of everything else and you just focused on that one thing. So, yeah, it's very, very powerful and very, very healing.
Yes, and it's interesting. Yeah, I see that also from the work that I've done as an art therapist. It's the focus that you have on what your hands are doing. That's just so much being in the moment, isn't it? And
yeah, definitely.
And you're talking about women. I mean, on the one hand, you're talking about yarning, and on the other hand, about sitting in silence and working. So that's very interesting, because that's that. I mean, well, how would you explain that? The silence being so powerful.
It's really hard to, the way that looking at it. Well, the last workshop that I did quite a while ago now, thanks to the lovely coronavirus, there was a lady there who, she came and she wasn't feeling well. She said her mental health was unwell at the time. By the end of the 3 hours, she went home and she sat down and continued doing her basket. She actually sent me a private message via Messenger and thanked me for the workshop, that she almost wasn't going to go, but decided, no, I will go and I will join. She said she felt the healing in the silence.
Yes.
She said she could see conversations happening around her, but she's not to participate in a lot of the conversation. So you can choose to sit and talk, or you can choose to sit and be silent. But you, at the same time, you're listening and you're hearing the conversations that are going around. So that in itself has a healing power to it.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, and it was just so nice that she acknowledged that feeling that she had, that she didn't really want to be there when she got there, but by the end of the day, she was very thankful that she'd come along.
Yeah.
And she'd found she said, you know, it was just a little journey, and it started her on a new journey, was the way she described it.
Yeah, how wonderful. Real transformation there of, feeling like whatever was, you know, not good for her, to be able to turn that around, and how wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, just to, art is healing. It is whatever form of art you do, whether it's woodwork or painting or weaving or whatever, dressmaking, it's healing, because you're focused on one thing and your mind is wandering off onto all of the other things that are unhealthy for you.
Yes.
So the depression and all of those types of things, they're all put aside for that 1 hour or 2 hours or however long you sit there and do it. So, yeah, as I say, I do it every day. Every single day I will do something art, whether it's whether I make some needles, I'll go out to the workshop outside and I'll make some wooden needles, or I'll get some kangaroo leg bone and I'll make some bone needles, or I'll make a little basket, or I'll go for a walk to the river and I'll get some bulrush and I'll make some string. Every day I do something, because it's my daily dose of medicine.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, because my view is that creativity is such an intrinsic, an innate part of us, that if we don't express it through something, so, you know, traditionally you could say it's through cooking and caring and, you know, the other things that we do as women a lot of the time, but that creative expression is what's so important, I think, and we really need to take care of that, acknowledge it and express it. Yeah, beautiful.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Well, do you want to take us on a bit of a journey then from your little purple basket onwards?
Okay, I'll get my little purple basket. The little purple basket is where it all began. So this basket came about, I went on a Aboriginal women's retreat back in, I think it was about 2015. And about a month or so after the retreat, some of the women had a bit of a get-together, and Sharon Egan came along. And she brought along, she was at the retreat with us, and she came along and she brought in this little woven basket, little cane basket with this plastic rope in it and some balls of wool and some little plastic string, plastic needles. And she goes, oh, who wants to have a go at weaving? And I went, oh, yeah, I haven't done that for years. I'll have a go. So this was the result of that day. And this was what became my obsession. This started my obsession. So my little purple basket comes with me to all of my workshops. I tell people where my journey began from 2015 till today. So yeah, my little purple basket goes with me everywhere. It's looking pretty shabby now and full, sides are sagging down, and it's tiny. It's, yay big. It's not very big at all, but I just love it to pieces. So yeah, this is the beginning of the obsession. After lots and lots and lots and lots of trial and error, teaching myself different techniques and forming different shapes and bringing instead of just making a basket, to actually add to it and give it more excitement. As you can see, this one here, natural raffia, hand-dyed raffia, large basket. This was one of two pieces that I had exhibited in Revealed 2018. The two baskets both sold on opening night, so that was really nice, and they went to the private collection of June2020. So she has a massive Aboriginal art collection, and she owns a gallery over in Cottesloe, Aboriginal Art Gallery in Cottesloe. So she's a huge collector. So yeah, I have a couple of baskets sitting there in her collection. So this one is Sun, Sand and Sea, and hence the photo taken down by the ocean. The colours that I've used in it are natural raffia and the hand-dyed raffia. Now, I dye all my own raffia, so that's been part of the journey as well. So using natural dyes and commercial dyes. The ones on this are turmeric and then 2 commercial dyes and just the plain natural raffia. Next one, so I like to kind of put it out there. You want to be individual in what you do. You don't just want to make a basket because everybody makes baskets. So to add a point of difference, I started bringing in bits of nature, so adding in vine. So I've got this rampant vine in my backyard that comes from my neighbours. So I go out and I pull off big lengths of it and I make it into wreaths, and I add those wreaths into my baskets. So this was the second one that was in Revealed in 2018. Again, it's natural raffia with natural dye. So this is actually dyed with a native plant called bloodroot, or in Noongar languages, bourne. It's a bush chili, and it's a really strong bush medicine as well. So I like to bring in lots of cultural aspects as well into my work while I'm working. The base of this basket is just like a normal basket. It's round, it's flat, it comes up the sides. Then I've stitched the vine onto the top of the plain basket. Then, as you can see from the top, I've actually used the form of the twigs or the vine to follow. So my weaving then follows where the vine goes. It's a beautiful neat on the bottom and then just chaos on the top. It's basically what I thought when I was making this, but it just turned out so beautiful, and the colours are really amazing. In the real basket itself, there are different levels of pinks and browns, and all from the same dye pot. So yeah, very, very special piece, that one, and that was the second one that went to the Julianne Penny collection. Next up we have my weaving obsession, natural and hand-dyed dilly bags, or kota. So kota in Noongar language, K-O-T-O or G-O-T-O, depends which part of the country you're from. If you're in my Koreng area, it's goto, G-O-T-O, and it will be pronounced. So if I was living down there, I would actually pronounce it goto, and it would be Goreng area, not Koreng. But because I'm in Perth, I use the Perth language. So koto and Koreng. So my dilly bags, you can see these ones have got feathers on them. So I use emu feathers, and they're hunted feathers. So my father-in-law goes out and hunts, traditional with a gun, so shooting. And I get the benefit of the feathers. So when they hunt emu, I get boxfuls of feathers, and I get to use them in my work. So I make emu feather string. I'll incorporate the emu feathers into the baskets. As you can see with these ones, all of the tops of these baskets are woven with the emu feathers wrapped into the raffia. So they're part of the basket, part of the raffia. Again, natural dyes. The large top one that's been dyed with turmeric, and I've added to the turmeric bicarb soda. So that's given it that beautiful terracotta type colour. And the pink colour that you can see in all of those baskets is rosella flower. So I've got 3 rosella bushes growing in my front yard, and when they have their little pods on them, I go and harvest them all, pop them in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to dye with them, take them out and do up a batch of dye and boil up some raffia, and I get this beautiful pink dye. So, but yeah, the dilly bags, love making them. I don't know what it is. I think it's the shape. I think the shape of them is very, very feminine, is the way I see it. It kind of reminds me of a uterus. So this might be a bit weird, or I don't know, but that's what I see. And a lot of other women say, oh, what an unusual shape for a basket or a bag. But yeah, these things I love making. I've got, I think I've got about 15 of them in my collection that I've made for myself, others that have been gifted to me as well. And next up, we have another technique called looping. This is with hand-dyed jute. So I like to use, my preference is to use natural fibres. And this is raw jute that I've dyed as a secondary dye from dyeing raffia. So when I finish dyeing the raffia, I get my balls of the jute natural, and I unravel it all and tie it and pop it into the pot. And so it comes out nice and mottled. It never comes out with an even solid colour, and I think it just gives the pieces a lot of character. So the looping is another technique that I love using, and it's a traditional one. This is one that we would use for making fish traps as well as bags. So this was a fishing nets, fish traps, bags. So it's very, very practical and everyday technique that was used and still is used today. A lot of people do the looping technique for lots of different things. And next up, native grass basket. So this one here is made, the core is made with a rush, and the out is made with dianella. So I grow the dianella in my yard so that I can use it, and every now and again I'll go for a walk and I'll look for dead rush down by the river, and I will bring some home and make a basket. This is the largest one I've made. Usually I only make them really, really small because it's actually illegal to take the native grasses from country. Sad but true, unless I go and get the permits for it. But given that it's a cultural practice, I do it, and I get these beautiful baskets as a result. The colour has stayed very strong in this particular piece, particularly on the dianella. But yeah, I love the connection to country that I get when I'm working with fibres that I've collected from country is amazing. It is very, very healing. So that's all of the bits and pieces that I've got to show you and to talk about there.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lee. I'm just interested what you said about the grasses, and I was thinking the rushes, I've noticed a lot of them have washed up on the side of the river. I go down, I suppose it's along Melville Waters. There's a lot of stuff that's washed up with the last week with all the storm.
Yeah, I did the same thing on Sunday. I went for a walk and did exactly the same thing because I'm near the Canning River up that way. So I went for a walk down there and I picked up some of the rushes that had blown off because they've died. So the winds come through and then they get knocked over. So then I can go and pick them up. So that's how I do it. But I grow the dianella at home. They're sitting on some of the dianella from out the front there. And that's what I use for my stitching. And I don't use needles when I do this work. I do it traditional. It's 100% traditional. No needles, no scissors. I'll use my teeth for cutting. I use a bone, so an awl, AWL. and it's a traditional piece, and it's just a bone that's been made into a point. Yeah. And you use that bone to open up the holes. You don't use it for actually threading and stitching. It's just for opening up the holes. The piece of fibre, or the piece of the reeds or the rushes that you're using as your stitching piece, you just cut those on an angle, and that becomes your needle. So it's a needle in itself.
Gee, yeah.
So just, all my traditional grass baskets are all done traditional way.
Mm.
So actually, I've just finished one, and I've only just finished sitting here behind me. Excuse me.
Yes.
This piece here.
Let's just go, if you can close the share button, and then we'll be able to get a full picture of your new basket.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah,
done there.
We should be able to get a bigger one.
This one here is made traditional. This is what was called a water carrier. So it is made of paper bark.
Okay.
And the paper bark is folded in a way. This is a prototype. This is my first one. And it's then rubbed in hot beeswax. So it's very dark in colour now. So it makes it almost like a drum. And then the string. So the handmade natural fibre string, and it's tied together with that string. So this is a really traditional basket. The WA Museum's got a large one of these in there. I saw an image of it and I thought, I must try to make one of those. So I just got a small quantity of the paper bark that had fallen and was hanging off a tree the other day when I went for my walk. And I thought, perfect, I can do it. I've got beeswax at home. So I love working with these traditional, very, very traditional and very, very old ways. So one of my pride and joys, that one. Just finished it.
Yeah, beautiful.
It doesn't. I've got to go back to the drawing board because where I folded it, I haven't put the folds high enough up, so it leaks out of the corners.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So back to the drawing board. Ancestors, talk to me.
Yes. Yeah. Some design hints, please. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I've sat there with some paper bark and I've been folding smaller pieces to try not to get the folds on the bottom, to move them further up. So I'll get there eventually. But in the meantime, it's my first one. As I always tell my people in my workshops, it's your first one. It's not meant to be perfect.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I liked how you said in your CV that you sent to me how, you've evolved these baskets and these techniques through trial and error, really, that, and I suppose that was in the absence of having people that could show you the way. Would that be?
Exactly. Yeah, most definitely. I don't have that luxury. There are very few traditional weavers left.
Yeah.
So to sit down and play with, learning what fibres work, which fibres don't. I'll go for a walk along the river and I might break off a little piece of this or a little piece of that and see if it's got fibre inside it and how I would use that. Bulrush is a beautiful one to use. I love making bulrush string, and I've taught my granddaughter how to make it. And so she's getting my knowledge now. I'm sharing all of my knowledge with her. So, she's only just turned 7. So she's going to be a master weaver.
Yes.
She will be a master weaver. She absolutely loves it. She gets so much from it. Last time, a couple of weeks ago when she was over here, we went and picked bulrush. And she sat here a whole day and just made bulrush string. She made about 3 meters of the stuff.
Gee.
She just loves it.
That's amazing for a 7-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that sort of focus, yeah.
Yep. And then next time she came over, she said, Nana, where's my string? Can I make some more string? So she absolutely loves making her string. Yeah. And she's made a couple of little baskets as well. But she gets a lot of she gets a lot of pleasure out of that as well. And so it's just teaching the next generation. And that's when I go into schools. That's a big thing for me, working with young Aboriginal girls, going into the schools, working with the Aboriginal girls as well as non-Aboriginal girls.
Yeah.
But, there's just, you see something change in the girls, Aboriginal girls, when you're working with them.
Yes.
There's something that changes in them. It's pretty...
And do you do intergenerational workshops where you invite the older women or the adults to come in as well as the children? Do you do that at all?
Yes, I do. Actually, I'm looks like I'll be doing that with the Victoria Park Centre for the Arts.
Oh, good.
We're talking about doing an intergenerational workshop over with them, sort of for the young 8 to 16-year-old girls with their mums to come along and share. So that'll be really nice.
Very special, yes. When do you think you'll be doing that? Is that, I mean, it's difficult with COVID-19 at the moment, but have you any idea?
Soon. Yes. I actually have my exhibition has been confirmed. It is going ahead. Yeah. So over at the Victoria Park Centre for the Arts, opening on the 2nd of July to the 22nd of July. Yeah. And in that time, somewhere in that time, looks like we're going to be doing 2 workshops. One will be the intergenerational workshop, and one will be just a women's workshop. So looking forward to those, but all that's to be confirmed.
Yes, all right. Well, when we put this video in the newsletter for WAFTA, we'll put in a note about that exhibition from the 2nd to the 22nd of July. Yeah,
2nd to the 22nd, yep.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, so, and it's nice to have not only Aboriginal art, but textiles to be represented in the way, because people look at textiles and say, oh, it's just a craft.
Yes.
It's kind of off-putting when you know what you put into it, your creativity that goes into creating something, whether it be an embroidery, this amazing embroideries and this type of thing, and for it to be labelled, oh, that's just a craft, it's kind of really insulting to the artist, because you are an artist. You're creating something amazing with your hand. So to have textile, fibres and Aboriginal art all represented in an exhibition is I'm kind of really humbled by that.
Yeah, well, that's fabulous. Are you doing the exhibition with other people then, or is it all your own work?
No, solo, all my own work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
fabulous.
my first solo. So, it's been pretty daunting. My poor partner, he must be like, I think he's tearing his hair out with this just stuff all over the house at the moment. Like I'm sitting out in my studio at the moment. But because if it's cold at night, I drag stuff inside, and it's in the lounge room where it's nice and warm by the fire, and there's raffia everywhere or there's string everywhere, and it's really quite funny. But there's baskets at the moment. My dining table's not being used for dining on anymore. It's the table where all of the finished works go to before they get packed up and taken off to the gallery.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting journey, and I never realised that you could have so much turmoil inside about getting ready for an exhibition.
Yes. Yeah.
You kind of ask, there's a lot of questions you ask yourself is it going to be good enough? Are they going to think, she's hopeless, or, it's good, or, you just start doubting yourself so much, because it's like you're really putting yourself out there with an exhibition. Hello.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I've been thinking as you were talking about that beautiful basket that you made with the vine, and you said it's sort of chaotic on the top and beautiful and calm and smooth underneath, and I thought that's sort of a mirror of your inner state as well, really, because there is that calm confidence underneath that ability, and then there's all the questions that go on, about whether I can do it and whether people will like it and all that stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many. You have these huge question marks over every piece I do, over every piece that I produce. And, but it's funny, because I remind people that I teach that it's handmade. It's not meant to be perfect. If you want perfect, go and buy it from the shop, made by a machine. Yes. Go do that. Yeah, but if you want the handmade, you got to take the pimples and all.
Yeah, that's right.
And they might have like my bucket with that leak, so I've got a leaky bucket.
Yeah. Yes, it wouldn't be the first time someone had a leaky bucket, would it?
Exactly, so true.
Yeah. No, and you made it yourself rather than it coming off a machine, you know, sort of conveyor belt or anything. So, yeah, beautiful.
That's right, yep.
So, I'm just having a quick look. I guess this is something that, and I was looking at my questions is what I meant. So, when, if you could, can you express what it is that's the bigger purpose in your art?
Oh, I think it's the recognition of Aboriginal art as something that's really viable. It's when you look at, and more so urban Aboriginal art.
Yes.
Because the way people look at urban Aboriginals as, oh, you guys, you're not the real Aboriginals because you're not out in the bush, you're not hunting, you're not doing traditional practices. So for me to be doing something that is a traditional practice and representing my Bibbulmun Noongar people in the way that I do to the greater community, it's a really positive thing. It brings out, it gives people, I feel, a better connection to Aboriginal people.
Yes.
And seeing functioning Aboriginal people is so important. And while I'm doing workshops and working with kids in schools and having exhibitions or curating exhibitions,
yes.
you know, I'm bringing that to the fore. I'm putting Aboriginal people in the light that they need to be put in. And with our culture is so old, you know, we've been here for over 65,000 years.
Yeah.
And to have this amazing culture and for it not to be practiced, it's way too important, way too important. So that's why, you know, I love teaching it. I love talking about the culture around that as well. So it's not just it's a cultural, it's a workshop about weaving, but you're also getting a lot of cultural information as well in those works.
And there's that, you know, the word sustainability comes up for me as well. It's like you're sustaining that culture. It's been around for 65,000. It's not just, it didn't stop 65,000 years ago or 40,000 years ago or whatever. And then everybody's saying, wow, look at this ancient art. It's amazing. You know, the rock paintings and things. It's like it's been continually going on. And that is so valuable to be able to bring that awareness out for people who, you know, see your work and just to, you know, and you said you used the word viable, and I think, yes, you're using this in a business sense so that you can make a living from it and support yourself, and other Aboriginal people can see that that's a viable way to make a living and to recharge themselves as well, you know, culturally and spiritually, that sort of thing.
Yep, absolutely. And as I've said, it's healing. It's very powerful in its healing, especially when you're using natural grasses. And, you know, like I teach with raffia. I don't have any choice but to teach with raffia. I couldn't go out on country and take enough material from country to workshop with 15 women. That's not viable. It's not sustainable. So I use raffia, but raffia is a natural fibre. It comes from a tree.
Okay, I was wondering where it came from. Yes.
So I use Madagascan raffia, and it's farmed. So it's a farmed product. And it comes in massive bales, and then it gets broken down into hanks. And I buy them by the kilo. So I buy 20 to 30 kilo at a time. Half of it gets dyed, and I use a lot of natural dyes now, and the other half of it stays the natural colour, and we use the natural colour as the core and the dyed colour as the stitching on the outsides of the baskets. But I try to be, it's sustainable as I possibly can be. But it's not just raffia, or you can use jute, you can use your old bed sheets. You've got threadbare bed sheets, rip them into strips, twist those strips and stitch them up with bits of cotton, and you can do coiling. Denim, your old denim jeans, your old T-shirts, old tea towels. chop it all into strips, wrap it, just twist it around into a coil, and then stitch it together.
Yes.
And you can make beautiful baskets. A lot of people are doing those sorts of things now. Paper. You know,
Yes.
I've got a product that I use work with kids, actually raffia, but I work with the kids because it's all the same length, it's all the same thickness, it's very soft on their hands. And when you're working with kids with autism and different sensory issues, so it's nice to have something that it's they can use and feel confident in using that.
Yes. Yeah, wonderful. That's beautiful. I don't know what the time is. Yes, I think we've probably done more than a half hour, but that didn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was beautiful. We were yarning, that's right. Okay, so that was beautiful, Lee. Thank you so much. And
my pleasure.
So we'll close off now, and all the best. And I'll be putting your business details up, and all the best for your wonderful exhibition. I'm glad I got advance notice. Not that it's opening for another month, but I'll get there. So I'll let everybody know, and we'll post all those details on the line on video for you.
Awesome.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today.